I have a question here. So
Yes, yes.
when you
Go on.
discovered that malware, it was making request to the Google.com. So how can
Yes.
we further analyze whether it is malicious or not? Because there may be some software that is behaving as like legitimate, but it is making request maybe to Google.com, and we are not able to figure out. So in that
Mhm.
case, how we can investigate, and how you investigated that case?
Okay. So in that case, thing was that if I'm able to recall properly, we were actually having certain IOCs earlier. So it was not just one parameter. Okay. We were actually having certain other things, like from threat intel, we got a report actually that there is a malware that does this all kind of thing. And I recall that um, one of the thing is that, yeah, that was, I recall one of the thing was that it was the user agent actually. Okay. So as I showcased to you guys when I was doing the HTTP log over here, like cat HTTP logs, what we also captured is the user agent. Okay. So what I recall is that in that malware case, the user agent was not something like what we normally see, like Firefox, or so there were certain things that malware writer actually forgot to do, is that there was some user agent like let's say something like this one, for example. Let's not make it much more complicated. So which was something, not something which was like seen. Okay. So over there, like let's say if a HTTP request is made to, let's say, google.com. Okay. And let's say we have a user agent like this. So what we can do is that using this, we can use this as an IOC and figure out, okay, what query that was made to the google.com is malicious. So let's say there are like 100 users in that system who are also using google.com, who are also visiting google.com. And let's say their user agent is having like Chrome, let's say Firefox for an example, or Firefox for an example. But let's say when that malware was running, it was having a unique user agent over there. Okay. And the unique user agent was something like this actually. It was again something like Firefox, but the version actually they specified was something like 98, for example. Okay, version 98. Okay. So even here, the malware writer was trying to hide in plain sight, because they know that, okay, Firefox was something, let's say, they were hoping that the cybersecurity professional will understand that, okay, this user and this agent is kind of a common. Maybe the person is trying to visit the website google.com from Firefox browser. Okay. And they have also kind of made it like looking like kind of a plain, like not malicious, like version 998, for example. But one of the things that we were knowing is that there are two things. The first thing we were knowing is that by policy, we were not allowing the system to have Firefox. Okay. The only browser that was allowed was, I think it was Chrome browser and Edge browser, the Microsoft Edge browser. There was no reason, it was by policy that we were actually blocking the execution of Firefox browser. Okay. So that's one of the things by where we were able to kind of, let's say, reduce the log entry. So let's say we have like, let's say, thousands of entries for visiting of google.com. Let's say with the specific user agent, we were able to, from 1000, we were able to reach out to, let's say, 500 from 1000. Let's say we were able to reach out to 100 of potential malicious DNS query that were made to google.com. Okay. And let's say what we also saw is that apart from the DNS query, what we also saw is that in the HTTPS request, the user agent was, let's say, Firefox browser. Okay. So now what we also know that the latest version of Firefox, let's say, was version 100, for an example. But we are seeing version 98. So using again that feature, again that functionality, let's say we were again able to reduce from 100 so to, let's say, 20 of them. Okay. So now rather than analyzing thousands of log entries, we were to 20 log entries. Okay, that were like potential malicious. And now just by using the user agent. So this is some of the thing that you should also kind of utilize. So the malware writer will try to evade the detection by being in plain sight, but you need to kind of understand the little bit gritty details to how you can kind of differentiate between malicious and not malicious. Okay. So over here, just by using the Firefox browser, you know that, okay, by policy, Firefox is not allowed. And by policy, let's say, even though it is allowed, the version is like, let's say 103, but what we're seeing in user end is version 98. And that's one of the way by which you can figure out what are the kind of malicious domain or not. Okay. So this is, I think, how we were actually trying to kind of figure out the malicious part. But this is not just one of the parameters that we check. This is just one of the parameters. There were other also IOCs in the threat intel report that we kind of figure out, which I'm not able to recall properly. But this was one of the things that we did check, and we always check this for any kind of similar alert, the user agent. Okay. So any other question on this? Okay. So these are the few the IOCs that can be used to kind of figure out if in this case, like even though like just by google.com, we can kind of figure out, okay, we shouldn't say that, okay, since it's repeated, that then there will be no malware in the system. We need to kind of figure out a lot of other parameters checks. So one of the other checks what we can also do is like, let's say we also have, let's say, net state output, for an example. And in the net state output, we will have the process name, for an example, process name that made the query, to, let's say, google.com. Okay. And in that, from the process name, we can know if it is Chrome or Firefox browser, or if it is something like this. The process name is something like this. So from here again, we'll know that, okay, this website was not visited by web browser, but by a malware, or let's say by a different software. Okay. So this is again, like, there are like not just one parameter by which you can reduce the hits, but you need to kind of correlate different parameters, and by which you can kind of reach out from, let's say, 1000 to 300, from 300 to 40, and from 40 to, let's say, 2, which will be like potential malicious with high confidence. Okay. So a lot of things that you need to kind of check out. Okay. Now, one of the things by which the malware author can kind of figure out is that, let's say, this one, like this is one of the code. So let me just quickly copy this out, and let's say I write this over here, nano, let's say, check internet. So let's say this is one of the code that malware author were using to kind of check if their malware is, let's say, if the malware that is running on the system is connected to internet or not. So what I will do is that I will just do over here www.google.com. Okay. So let me tell you just quickly what this function does. It is a request module. Request is a functionality in Python. It is a module by which you can interact with the website. Okay. So what we are doing is we just specified what's the URL that we want to visit. And then what we are doing is that we are calling this function and passing the data, passing the URL that we want to fetch. Okay. And then we are getting the content out of that, okay, of that URL. And then what we are doing is, that we are printing that content. So what the malware writer over there, what they did is that one of the other thing that they could have also done is they could have just pinged the google.com, right? They could have just did, rather than going and fetching the content, they could have just pinged the google.com, but they didn't did that because they understood that maybe the ping traversal, maybe it would have been blocked by the company, for an example. And that's where the malware author will not be able to understand, like if the system is kind of connected to internet or not. So let's say if the malware author was trying ping.google.com, okay, google.com. So what will happen is that if the company has done some kind of blocking, the malware writer will not be able to know if that system is connected to internet or not. The other thing, what they also did is that, what can also be done is that, you can also kind of, once you fetch the content, you can also see, let's say, if there's any kind of time mentioned in that content. By that, you can know that, okay, let's say you fetch google.com and somewhere in that is mentioned, okay, what's the current time of the when what's the current time that the server has by